An article appeared a couple of days ago in the Wall Street Journal entitled, "Remember Todd Beamer of United 93." Todd Beamer was one of the many heroes among the passenger and crew from United Flight 93 who fought back against the terrorists who were planning on crashing the Boeing 757 into the U.S. Capitol. The subtitle of the article was significant. It was, "His heroism on 9/11 drew from a lifetime of faith and character." So hopefully you're all familiar with his story. He was a 32-year-old husband and father, software salesman for Oracle. His rallying cry on the plane that fateful day, "Let's roll," rests in American memory. It is amazing and inspiring to think of what he and his fellow passengers did on that short flight and how many lives were saved by their actions. The passengers of the hijacked plane were crammed into the back and they were allowed to make phone calls. As they got word during these calls of the attack on the World Trade Center, they realized that their plane was going to be used in a similar way at some target in Washington, D.C. Todd Beamer spoke with an operator for Airphone, a woman by the name of Lisa Jefferson, who commented, first of all, on his poise and calm under that intense pressure. But his phone call became the fullest account of what happened on that day on the airplane. He remained on the line for 14 minutes, describing the direction of the plane, the hijackers' behavior, and eventually the passenger's decision to do something about it. Now, Todd Beamer was a strong Christian. His faith was a primary motivator for his actions that day. His wife would describe their life together as really being based on the faith during their time at Wheaton College and then teaching Sunday school at Princeton Alliance Church in New Jersey. And so, before ending the phone call, he said to Miss Jefferson, "Would you do one last thing for me?" "Yes, what is it?" she answered. "Would you pray with me?" And they said the Lord's Prayer together in full, and the other passengers joined in. And then he recited Psalm 23, concluding, "Yea, though I walk in the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." And then immediately after, he turned to his co-conspirators, and it could be heard on the open phone line, and asked, "Are you guys ready? Okay, let's roll." It's an expression that Todd Beamer used with his family, his wife and two boys, whenever they were leaving home for some family outing. He would say, "Are you guys ready? Okay, let's roll." He and three other passengers who spearheaded the revolt, Jeremy Glick, Mark Bingham, and Tom Burnett, were all athletes, and that became very important because the hijackers were pitching the plane back and forth sharply in a failed attempt to knock their attackers off their feet. The cockpit recording, filled with slams and shattering plates and howls, revealed that the terrorists finally decided, after about 6 minutes of sustained attack on the cabin door, decided just to ditch the airplane in an empty field in Pennsylvania. Again, the passengers and crew's action that day saved an untold number of lives. So if you remember now, 20 years ago on that very, very dark day in American history, in the face of this tremendous and almost unknown evil, those passengers' heroism, their selflessness, and their courage, and really their willingness to sacrifice their lives for others, became a real light and a source of hope for each of us as Americans. So thinking about this now in the 20th anniversary of 9/11, it's good to kind of think to ourselves, like, what would I do in that situation? Would I have the same sort of courage and bravery and willingness to sacrifice my life for people that I don't even know? Would I have the courage to confront that sort of evil, even if it means sacrificing myself for the sake of others, to lay down my life? So again, the subtitle of that article gives us a clue as to what the answer to those questions might be for ourselves. We think, well, what would I do? And the subtitle again was, His Heroism on 9/11 Drew from a Lifetime of Faith and Character. And I really think this is an important thing for us to consider. You know, we don't just decide at the supreme moment of life to suddenly start being heroic and generous and sacrificial. When that time comes, most naturally, it will probably just be the conclusion of, the culmination of, the consummation of our lives and all of the small choices that we've made each and every day. Under pressure, we usually can only rely on our habits of thought and action, our choices and actions that have been repeated over and over and over again until they have become a part of our personality and our character. So today, Jesus explains to his apostles in the gospel. They answer this question right. They understand his identity. You are the Christ. In Matthew's parallel to this gospel, St. Peter will say, you are the Son of God. You are the Christ. And so we hear this as Jesus explains to them now the reality of, and here's what it means that I am the Christ. He says that he must suffer greatly and be rejected and be killed. So what that means is this they call it the divine must. It means that Jesus isn't saying, well, our communication strategy hasn't been going very well so far, or it looks like maybe with just the right number of miracles we might be able to sway the undecided. But instead he's saying, by the fact that he is the Son of God, that he's the Christ, the Messiah, the one who is sent into the world to destroy the power of Satan in his reign of sin and death, by the fact that Jesus is the Christ, that in saving the world, which is under Satan's dominion, that the world will reject him. And so he will give his life in suffering and in sacrifice for the salvation of the world. It's just this reality of living in the fallen world that we do. Because of sin, because of the fallen nature of our world, that real love will always come with suffering and sacrifice. That the gift of salvation will always come with suffering and sacrifice. And so then we can understand clearly what that means for our lives as Jesus explains to us. He says, if you're going to be my disciples, whoever wishes to come after me, if you want to follow me, you must, again, that divine must, you must deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it. Again, it's important to recognize that Jesus doesn't say, deny yourself, take up your cross, and be miserable. Or just keep sacrificing and being taken advantage of till you're all used up. No, at the heart of his invitation to discipleship is follow me, which means at the heart of our Lord's standards for being his disciple is that we are following him. Like we're walking in his footsteps, we're keeping our eyes fixed on him as we go along, and that we strive basically just to do what he does, to imitate him. That he gives us then the strength of his divine power so that we can readily and generously give of ourselves for those that we can give generously of ourselves. And as many of you know, something amazing comes about when we actually do that. When we follow in his footsteps, when we try to take up our cross daily and just follow him, when we try to do what he does, that when we try to live that life, something amazing comes about, and that is that we discover real joy and peace, that we're filled with courage and love. We discover that truly the cross is the only path to happiness in this life. So now, hopefully, we all do want to be heroes. We want to do something great and meaningful with our life, do something great and meaningful even with our death. But we realize that starts with the small choices that we make each and every day, our choices and our actions, so that we make loving, sacrificial actions a habit, and they become a part of our personality and our character. The small sacrifices, the little things that we do each day to deny ourselves out of love for the Lord and others, the hidden ways in which we just set aside quietly our plans, our wants and wishes for the needs of others, well, those are the way that we're training and preparing for the big moments in life, so that we are able to say, let's roll when the supreme Christian moment comes. So as we mark this weekend the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and we recall all of those who were heroes that day, the passengers and crew of Flight 93, the civilian heroes of the Twin Towers, the first responders, policemen and firemen of New York City, and our military men and women who have served, sacrificed, and even died to keep us safe since then. I pray that we would be inspired to embrace the little opportunities that Jesus gives us to deny ourselves, take up our cross, and follow him.